pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this regular board meeting to order. Roll call shows all present except, I see Dawn is missing also. Peter and Dawn are missing and they're excused. Dawn may be showing up yet. She sometimes shows up late. Agenda changes, I don't know of any. Consent agenda, November 1st, 2018 regular board meeting minutes. The November 1st, 2018 committee of the whole meeting minutes. Operator's license, Catherine M. Craig, which I assume is, and presentation of accounts and other claims against the village.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain just because I wasn't there.
We do not have a public hearing. Is there any pre-registered citizens?
No.
Committee reports, library board.
I'm sorry. There were 30, I'm just going to speak for Allie. Allie is with her mother right now. She's on hospice and family is with her, so that's why Allie's not here. There's a part-time position open at the library. There's a November 29th deadline for applications. They had a good day for International Games Day on this past Saturday. 31 people participated, and I believe that's it in the library.
Any questions for Pat on the library? Hearing none, do you have anything for senior activities?
We'll be having the holiday meal on December 3rd at the Opera House in coordination with the meal site. We're trying to increase attendance at the meal sites. We're trying to work with them and planning a special menu. So we'll be helping with that and trying to do more coordinating with the ADRC, the Y, the library. I had a meeting with David the other day and we did some talking and planning and some ideas. So.
And I'm meeting with Bonnie tomorrow, also 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'll be meeting with Bonnie from
ADRC?
Yes, ma'am.
If you can make it Monday to let the group
Yes.
here know about that.
Yep, there's 3 of us that are coming. So, yep, thank you.
Because I probably won't be here.
Okay. I'll be there.
We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Well, number 2, rehabilitation contract amendment.
I'll take that. Basically, at the last board meeting, I had brought up the fact that we discovered an issue with well 2 during the examination of it. On the cameras we ran down there, we found out we had possible dead zones, that kind of stuff. Anyways, I had gotten board authorization to go ahead and award the contract, but I wanted to bring it back to make it official because it wasn't an agenda item. It's something we're trying to get a jump on. Anyways, we're here tonight to officially award well 2 contract rehabilitation to CTW, even though we verbally authorized it before, but we wanted it on the agenda. The second part of that is, I'm going to go ahead and lead into B, is during that rehabilitation inspection when we've got a gentleman here named Troy Seminar from CTW, we're going to explain their concerns, our concerns with what's going on within the well column. So I don't know if we should go ahead and, the rehabilitation contract, does that include, it's kind of leading into the next part, it includes the setup for the testing needed for the WQI contract. Okay. So at the end of the day, if all this transpires and we're able to solve the well problems, right now we're looking at a few $1,000s difference between what we spent on well 1 versus what we're going to spend on well 2 minus the pump. I still want to get that in motor. But the WQI is going to be on top of that. So at the end of the day, it's probably going to cost $6,000 or $7,000 more to rehabilitate well 2 than it did well 1. But it's something that we need to do, and I want to let Troy, as soon as we get into the WQI part, I want to let Troy expand on that. So right now I'm just looking for a motion to approve well 2 rehabilitation contract with CTW. it's in your packet. I didn't hand it out again.
Yeah. What is your pleasure of the contract?
So, just to clarify, when we talked about this at the last meeting, you just mentioned a change, so is it a change?
Yeah, it's a change order over the original, pulling the pump, fixing the pump, putting the pump back in. When we first brought this up, we didn't think there were any issues with the water or with the column, and I think I had told you as such, but it turns out we were wrong. And again, we'll talk more about that on the next one, but what CTW is going to do is basically clean the well itself, not solve the underlying issue as part of this contract. The WQI will let, that's another contract with biologists, a doctor of biology, who's going to examine why we're having the issues we're in. And we'll show some slides here in a minute and we'll get to that.
So the contract, so you're asking us to amend the contract at the cost of the contract or just the wording of the contract? I'm sorry.
No, we're adding the rehabilitation part, not the rebuilding.
Okay.
Okay, I called the first one rehabilitation. Basically, you're rehabbing the pump, the column, the shaft, the bowls, all that good stuff, pulling it out. We didn't think, because the last time we had the well apart and we sent a camera down there, it was pristine.
No, I get the fact that we didn't.
But this,
going on. This is
the CTW part is actually going there and inject chlorine, do some other treatments.
So it's adding more scope and adding more cost.
It is adding more scope and
I'm
more
just,
cost.
and I'm just looking at like the previous meeting minutes, if we approved like a certain dollar amount, do we need to amend that dollar amount? I don't think we did. That's kind of what I'm.
This is, that original dollar amount is still viable. This is going to be on top of.
Okay, so we don't
No,
need
this is
to,
what we have to do.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'll make a motion to
And we
amend.
do have the money to do it within the utility. It's not like we gotta,
I'll make a motion to approve, to amend the contract for well 2 rehabilitation.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
okay, now we're gonna get into the meat and the potatoes of the problem we got there. I'm gonna, again, Ryan St. John showed up tonight, the utility operator, and Troy's here. Troy, would you mind leading us into that video?
You might have edged drift off on some thoughts too, is that?
Yeah, you're free to speak,
All right.
Ryan, and educate them as much as you're gonna educate me.
I tend to go off on a whole bunch of different gathering sessions, but I got a passion for what we do underground.
And understand we don't.
Remember this after here.
I'm sorry, I said that to a fellow, on the way down and listen to the radio, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a game tonight. Just two quick thoughts.
Honesty's the best policy.
Carl and Ryan caught this well from being catastrophic. They really did. The shaking vibration was so bad. If they wouldn't have shut it down when they shut it down, the upfront cost to repair would have been much more. So they caught it before it had completely destroyed itself. When we just assembled everything, inspected all, it was in terrible shape. Very complete separation. Fishing tools out of the ground. Fishing is great out of a boat. It's not good down a hole and well. So they saved a lot of money. Any day it was going to break. It was in fragile condition. So essentially, we've been contracted to pull the pump, inspect the well top to bottom. Ryan actually stopped by the day I was doing televising myself. Normally I'm not out there doing it, but I just wanted to take a look at this well and see what's happening. So we do bring a televising, we put a high definition camera down the hole. We go top to bottom. We're looking and assessing what the hole looks like. So we want to see what it was, before years ago. And what kind of quality we're seeing with the casing, what kind of quality we're seeing with the borehole as years go on. So as Carl said earlier, when this well was televised years ago, it was pristine. Why? Because it was just cleaned up and it was just drilled deeper, I believe. Is that like
No, even before we drilled it, it was pristine.
Okay.
The original depth back in the early 2000s was 100 and, roughly half. It's 362 now. It was about 180, and it was just spotless top to bottom, just pretty sand. Back then, the theory was deeper is better, more flow. But as we're finding out in the last few years, that's not always the case.
He's right. This is where the WQI is involved. So as we're going down here right now, we're still inside the casing. It's pretty boring. You can see a little bit of flaking of iron and whatnot. There's not a whole lot happening. We get to the bottom of the casing, and you'll start noticing more and more growths. And some of these growths you'll see, and I'll keep going through these minutes as we pass through. you'll start looking at these slimy looking layers. Right here, you can see just a little bit of growth. These are naturally occurring biofilms. It's not something that normal in the water quality in Hortonville. Greenville's got the same thing with one of their wells. So these are naturally occurring biofilms that are in a very symbiotic relationship with their environment. They're aerobic bacteria, they're living up top. The reason why they're thriving is because they got open hole to the air that was never there naturally. We drilled a well, and now they got air going down. But they've got all the conditions for growth, and that's what separates your well from other wells that don't have this issue. So they've got everything they need. They've got organic carbon, they've got phosphorus, they've got oxygen, they're able to propagate. Just like starting a fire, we need a fuel source, we need ignition, and we need oxygen. Same thing are happening with these naturally occurring biofilms. There's some sort of defect or some sort of water quality issue that are allowing these bacteria to propagate. So part of this process, as we went down, further down the hole, we started to see more and more material building up on the borehole. So see how more and more things are falling on us here? This camera is going down, and this camera is very light, very benign, hardly touches anything on the way down. The further we go down, the more debris we're knocking off, and this debris is so water soluble, so neutrally buoyant, it just flakes off and follows us ever so slowly. So as we go head down further and further, you can see everything's just getting kind of crustier and thicker. If this was mineral deposition or iron deposition, we could scratch at it to a balloon face, nothing would happen. But because this is biofilm and it's neutrally buoyant, it's barely holding on to the borehole. What it's doing is, it's literally mining the minerals it needs for life out of the bedrock. It's mining what it needs out of the pipe, mostly carbon. So it's actually corroding your pipe, and it's actually causing water quality issues in your distribution system because it's found a home where it keeps proliferating, it keeps being sent out, it keeps being brought back in distribution. Every time the pump turns on, more nutrients come up to it. You're feeding growth inside of your well. Now, I'll be honest with you folks, 5 years ago, we said, oh, you just got some stuff going in your well, brush it, bail it, pump it all out, call it good. 5 years later, you're in the same position. The gentleman, Dr. Andy Jock from Water Quality Investigation, does all of the state's work. He is an absolute, unbelievable genius on water quality issues. When I saw this well with Ryan, he showed it at the perfect time. I said, holy cats. You guys have some sort of defect in this well that's causing these heavy buildup of biofilms. So one of his theories, and one of his proven theories, is that these wells not only are nutrient rich, but there's also a zone in these wells, usually towards the bottom, that is allowing all this decaying matter to fall. And when it falls down there, anaerobic bacteria begin digesting the aerobic bacteria. So every time these pumps turn on and off, a little bit of water bursts up to it. And these nutrient-rich water back up to the aerobic bacteria. And the cycle continues and continues and continues until it gets so large, people like Carl and Ryan have problems with chlorine disinfection byproducts. They have problems with chlorine being high enough count in their distribution system. Dead ends become impossible to keep any chlorine residual. We start having water main breaks. We start having corrosion in piping. All the piping we pulled out is junk. Why is it junk? The biofilm ate it all up, chewed it all up. They are literally mined your pipe for organic carbon to complete their life cycle. So when we start seeing all these pieces come together, the first person that comes to mind to help out and help solve these issues is water quality investigation. Like I said, he's a gentleman that's been in business for about 3 years. He's a doctorate in engineering. He has always studied this. Finally, he's put all the pieces together through all the studies through. He worked for a company called Town and Country Engineering prior to starting his own business. And like I said, the state of Wisconsin trusts him on these projects. So he's been introduced to Greenville, Howard, Pulaski, Coleman, Clintonville. He's been on a multitude of projects with us. He's not the same entity as we are. He's separate on his own. But in your case, I would highly recommend approving a contract for him in conjunction with us. We're going to do all the testing, but he's going to take all the data and crunch all the data and find out if there actually is a dead zone down the well. So as we progress down here further, you can see more and more flocculation falling down the well as we're scraping this off. Let me get to one here, and I'll go to my next point. So you can see as the deeper we get down this hole, there's just more growth down there. More is happening as we get deeper. So how do we find out if the bottom of this well is a problem? We put in a large pump, we pump to waste, we put down what's called a spinner. It's like a propeller, very sensitive propeller. It's looking for change in velocity, change in flow rates. So as we're putting this propeller down hole, these rates at which it's going to spin is going to speed up and slow down based on production of the well. As we get down to the bottom of this hole right down here, we fully expect the propeller to stop spinning. And that means there'll be a dead zone down here. A dead zone will be harboring all this biofilm. If there is indeed a dead zone, and the propeller proves that the case that there's no water movement, and that the water analysis that we test for proves that there's no water movement, how we solve this well is get rid of the part that's dead, that's not producing any water. All it's harboring is a cesspool of bacteria. Like I said, 5 years ago, we didn't know any of this. Today, we're well aware of this. So it's kind of difficult for both Ryan and for Carl to take this on their own and pass it on, this agenda on to you folks without actually saying this is cutting edge, this is new, this is not what they knew 5 years ago, 10 years ago in previous rehabilitation. But we do know it now. So nothing's changed in the processes we do, it's the people we bring on board to help to solve the problem. And that's where WQI comes into place.
So we have a problem, we don't have a solution, but WQI will come up with that solution.
We have an idea of what the problem is, but we need them to confirm it.
Correct.
And they're like confirming where our problem lies, we can find a solution to fixing that problem. So we may have to fill in the well back up to a certain level. The problem could be midway.
But that's, the gist of what this is we need to, you want us to approve a contract for WQI to come and do the analysis, come up with a solution, and then we enact that solution.
Yep.
Okay.
As you can see, I've never seen nothing like this. Like I said, the old days, it was drilling deep. That was, we thought we were accomplishing something. Might have shot ourselves in the foot doing it, drilling. You know, we might have went 30 feet too deep.
You went under the approval of an engineer too, showing you to do this or telling you to do this. So.
Yeah, it just wasn't something, you didn't come up with that.
And, you know, times are changing. We're becoming a little more aware of what the biology, what's happening down in these wells. And,
Here's just from us going down, Carl, if I can interject so they can see. This is obnoxious. This is all, we've knocked all this down the hole with our camera. Like I said, our camera probably weighs 15 pounds on a cable. It's benign. We've knocked all of this. Now, we're going to head up quickly here, intentionally, to try to knock some off. And you'll see what's going to happen here. This is us still sitting here. All of this is finally catching up to us on our way down. And this should never happen. You shouldn't be having material falling out of the well. So every time the pump turns on, any of this material is getting pumped in distribution. And you're drinking it.
you do have biofilm in your guts right now. So.
We have an RT.
Yeah.
And the two filters that I have in my house.
This much is too much.
Right?
I think I said it wouldn't kill you.
So here's when we come up, it's just we can't see. You just can't see it because it's just so thick. It blacks the camera out at one point. It becomes so thick on the camera, which I've not seen that happen before.
I'm not sure we should put this on our website.
These are the concerns I have again.
We've got a Greenville, so everybody wants to move to Hortonville. I'll tell you that.
So you're looking for an approval?
I'm looking at approval of the WQI contract. I believe it's in your packet.
It was part of the package you sent.
So how long is this going to take to get fixed?
Well, see, the DNR's got to authorize it. It might be through the end of December till we get back online.
It's not in the package, Carl.
Yeah, is it this?
It's not,
This one?
no,
It's in here, okay.
So Carl, are we, or are we not using this well right now?
No, we're not using
We're not
it.
using, just to clarify for anybody
Yeah.
watching this.
there's no pump in there.
Online.
Is it not in the packet?
No, so it's $6,300 with an optional assessment of about $1,600. That's right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I said, the utility has the funds to pay for this, and I think we owe it to our ratepayers to solve this issue in an expeditious manner. The problem is, the DNR has to authorize any work that happens in the ground. They would not likely let us bring this back online in any way, shape, or form in the manner it's in right now, so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I think we gotta do it.
We have a problem.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thanks, thank you very much.
Sorry to bring you that images.
No, actually, the visual is.
Like I stressed, it's not abnormal. It's really not. It's just the level that you have, there's a defect. And the defect needs to get fixed so you don't have this level going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, resolution R-16-18 in support of I-41 6-lane expansion.
I'll take this one. This came from the Outagamie County Highway Commissioner. When we met discussing Highway TT. He also asked if we would be able to make a resolution in support of the 6-lane expansion, essentially in the Fox Valley, to which we agreed to. So I am putting it, I've created a document and it's for your approval before we send it off to the Highway Commissioner. They are looking to meet up with the areas to the south, the 6 lanes, and get a safer passage on Highway 41 from essentially the Budmore area to into the Green Bay Metro.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve R-16-18.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Did they have any word on Highway 15?
No. They're,
Just curious.
optimistically speaking, in our conversation, there was a lot of discussion on the Highway TT, transfer of ownership. Again, they haven't ruled out anything with Highway 15. They keep dropping the 2022 date on us, but again, we're all sitting with our hands in the air waiting for an update.
Moving on, resolution R-17-18, adopting salaries for the village board.
Having not heard any change in your salary requests, we basically did what we had last year and we made it into a resolution for this year, moving into 2019, so it's the exact same pay schedule. It's just been updated with the terms set and ready for your signature if it's approved.
I'll make a motion to approve R-17-18.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Resolution R-18-18, adopting the 2019 budget and approving the tax levy.
There are 2 handouts that I would have given you after the fact, so these were not in your packet, these have been distributed by me. What I will call is the 2019 budget message. If you want to look at that one first, it is the one without the graphs. Essentially, what I did is I took what I would call the 3 most important pieces of data from our budget booklet, and I put those in front of you. To summarize, probably the biggest factor that we were waiting for was the total value of assessment to the village. That's when Russ was here, why we reported why we're not able to give you the calculated mill rate to the village. At that time, I believe that was the first meeting in regards to the budget. So we received that number, and unfortunately, we had made an appraisal thing, and we think it'd be a 2.85% increase of assessment. It actually came back at 2.02%. So that being said, it put us in a situation where we had some options, and the options were, we essentially had a revenue gap. So we had essentially 2 options that we could do. It would be either assess a higher tax to the village, or use more fund balance, what has happened in the past. The other way we could do it would be to minimize expenditures to match revenues, and that would mean cuts. And what I produce here in the budget message, along with the budget overview, are what I would call the vital statistics telling you that I am going to give kudos to the department heads. They have done their diligence in using available money in 2018. We have purchased in advance to minimize expenditures in 2019. We have rolled back what I would call a very tight budget, and I will give credit where credit is due. All of the department heads had what I termed in my report here is that they dialed it in this year. They really did what they could do to put the numbers out that represent what truth in spending would be in 2019. So with that being said, we were able to utilize less fund balance to move into what we were going to call a balanced budget until we received our assessment. When we received that assessment, I plugged it in, and we ended up being 6.85 cents per thousand short of what we were actually hoping to get for our assessment. That's per thousand. So the way that equates is on the math here. So essentially, if you own a house in the village at $150,000, you're looking at a approximately a $10 increase in your taxes this year for the village. There are other options. We could back this out. Speaking with Russ yesterday at conference, I told him of the situation. He made it very clear to me that was only an approximation and that things like this happen. So he said, what are your options? And I discussed it with him, and I said, well, we can go back, we can apply fund balance like we've done in the past, but a few things happen. We leave ourselves in a, especially more now than ever this year, where we have a tight budget. We leave ourselves in a situation where A, it's not going to be looked upon well by our auditors, because we always relied on fund balance. B, we kind of take away some contingency because we're going to run those funds low. And C, we need to get out of that predicament of what we've always done in the past by using that fund balance and start to gradually work our way up so we can start establishing funds. In discussing with Carl today, the way I look at it is right now we're $20,000 off of a true balanced budget. And with how things are progressing, I think next year is a year where we won't see a tax increase and we'll see a balanced budget without using any fund balance. And hopefully we have funds where we can start to establish capital improvement plans and other significant sources of fund balance. We need to grow. So what I'm asking you, what I'm presenting you with this data is that this is a year that this insignificant, and I'll never say a tax increase is insignificant, but a minor increase to the taxing levy would help us better position ourselves moving forward into 2019. And I will also defend it. It couldn't have come at a better time after seeing the release of the school district numbers, where they're projecting an 18-cent decrease in the mill rate. We are increasing ours by 6.75, so the taxpayer will still see an 11-cent decrease on their tax bill. That's before the technical college is applied. So it's at your discretion on how you want to proceed. Again, there are options. We can use fund balance. We can go back and we can recalculate. But
this is your recommendation.
My recommendation is that we need to start, and as a property owner, and I can't speak for being a property owner in the village, but what I would say is a gradual $10 a year increase is better than getting whamboozled when we really, really need it.
What was our increase last year?
I think it was a decrease.
Yeah, I think it was a decrease.
Was it a decrease?
Just to,
Actually, the village balanced last year. It was a minimum
0.05% or something like that. It wasn't.
But we did use quite a bit of fund balance.
Yeah.
Basically, money we were budgeted for, we rolled into the.
And also the Lake District has cut theirs by 10%, so, which doesn't add up to a whole lot with the Lake District, but it is
Well, Kerber Rose,
a
the
little bit
last
less.
few years I've listened to when they do the audit report, the one thing they keep
Yeah,
drilling is that we
fund balance.
need that fund balance. We need to build that fund balance.
So you won't get yelled at come next May.
The other thing that I'll say is we have never, and I'm going to say we, but starting when I started this year, I didn't have the opportunity to dabble in other revenue sources. And I have a page of things that I want to explore moving into 2019 where I think we need to generate new revenue sources. So with that being said, in my experience from budgeting, I think there's a multitude that we can do for new revenue sources moving into 2019. And I think we'll realize those next year. So this, in my opinion, this is the best thing to do for the village moving forward.
So we're looking for a motion on R1818? Is that what you're
Correct.
recommending here? And that motion is going to enact what your recommendation is?
That would hereby approve the tax levy of $1,590,681. So we would need a motion to approve that resolution and then a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Okay, I'll make the motion for R1818.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Now we need a motion
Second
for
motion for the
approving.
budget.
Yeah, for the approving the tax levy.
These are hand in hand, right?
Yes.
You don't need to tell us anything else, what to do. I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next, we have Resolution R-19-18, accepting municipal roads Wild Wind subdivision.
Yeah, I did run past Bob, but as far as I'm concerned, the developer did meet all requirements for the roads to be accepted by the village. Again, it would have some effect on the, what's that? We got that
Letter
letter.
of credit.
Yeah, the letter of credit. So we would reduce the letter of credit. We're not going to reduce it to zero because there's still the issue of the biofilter in between some of the lots out there. So we're going to hold back probably 25 to 30,000 for that.
Isn't there a final payment too?
I'll have to speak with you more on that. But until they put that biofilter in, we're not going to zero that out, so.
Okay.
Well, the final paving, that's something we assess.
Is that, wait, okay.
Yeah.
So that they have completed their paving?
They've satisfied, the developer satisfied the developer agreement.
I drove out there.
It's looking real nice.
Yeah.
There are another 4 lots sold today, and there's an option for another 6 more, so there's not going to be too many left in a month or 2. So he's doing well. Okay. So again, I'm looking to approve resolution R-19-18.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-19-18.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Brookwood Drive assessment discussion.
At the last board meeting, we were going to bring this back, or at the last committee of the whole meeting, we were going to bring this back for an agenda item. And basically, we looked at some of the financing options. If you look in the handout I gave you, page 2, shows some of the expenditures we've had, some of the expenditures to come. It looks like if everything goes perfect, that aside from the contract MCC for $245,000, we're probably going to experience another $54,000 in expenditures related to engineering, We Energies, some of the loop cost, and items like that. I don't anticipate any other things out of the blue, but when you're digging in the ground, you just never know. But the gist of that meeting, in an effort to reduce assessments, was to try to keep the assessment tied to construction costs only, basically MCC costs only. But there's been some developments that me and David are a little concerned about with the citizen over there threatening litigation. Before we set this cost, if there was litigation, I would throw that in with the assessment. What I'm recommending now is we're going to try to do that. I don't want any vote tonight on this. I'm just concerned that if somebody does threaten litigation against the village for moving forward with this because they lost their view or whatever, that those costs, attorney fees, should be wrapped up into the assessment.
We've taken a multitude of calls this week. Essentially what Parker's done is they crushed out in preparation to put sewer and water laterals in the ground this year yet because of the weather. It's favorable for them to do that. So what's happening is some of the residents have seen now with the depletion of the trees and the cover, what they're looking at to their backyards. So they're upset about it. We've taken some heat, we've handled it. We just don't know what their next move is going to be in the process. So we were told there will be an injunction to stop the process. I made it very aware to the resident that we have had a multitude of postings, meetings. Everything was legally displayed for their view, the proper time frame. Technically, they were supposed to have a person of interest for their subdivision at meetings. We've never seen that person here to make public comment. So I said we proceeded as if we had good intention, or everything was fine. And so, like Carl said, we are just a little hesitant right now to set that final number until we know that everything's, Parker is, aside from deer hunting this week, he said the week after they might be digging earth. So at that point, it's going to be a hard process to stop.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm confident that, the assessment should be around 245. I gave him a spreadsheet showing what they would be if we did it at that amount. I followed through revised assessment estimate. Again, these are estimates, we won't know until the project's done, but barring any litigation,
Yeah.
they're looking at saving a considerable amount of money.
Oh, that's even tough.
Jeannie's only the one with the large printout. Public Works Chair, you.
I guess.
Okay, so we're not settling on the assessment amount at this time, because it could actually be higher if there's legal fees, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we can't afford the legal fees. If there's gonna be legal fees, we're gonna have to wrap them up in the project.
We've done everything that we're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Meetings are online.
Including the meetings that you guys had with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Okay, so you're not looking for a motion or anything?
no, to be honest, it'll be another year before we actually set assessments.
Okay.
All right,
So,
cool.
we're trying. I mean, we can get them down to those numbers as long as there's no shenanigans.
All right.
Any more discussion on Brookwood? Hearing none, we'll move on to discussion and approval of stray animal contract for 2019.
Okay, this one is also me, and I'm gonna say thank you to Chris, Chief of Police. I was signed, sealed, and delivered, ready to sign the Wolf River Veterinary Clinic contract, because that's what the village has used for a multitude of years. She did make me aware of the Fox Valley Humane Association contract, so I reached out and solicited information. So you have both of those in front of you, and the reason I have this on the topic tonight is because I wanted to make the village board aware that if by signing the contract with the Fox Valley Humane Association, it is a revenue source. You know, I have a share pool with the municipalities they work with. I will reference Greenville. They currently make in excess of $300 monthly by the fees and charges that are produced through their kennelling and boarding services. And what they do is they give it back to the municipalities that participate. So as a qualifier, we would not see any revenue in 2019, but by signing this contract and being a partner to them in 2019, we would start realizing the revenue source in 2020. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Their costs are also probably a third of what we would pay to the Wolf River Veterinary Clinic, and I just think I would entertain any discussion in the matter.
So you're recommending that we go with the Fox Valley Humane Society?
Correct. It would just be, I would be comfortable signing this. It would be nothing that we need to approve. I'm just looking for open discussion on it. It's a non-costing contract, so it's only for services rendered.
And it's easier for, I mean, it's seamless for the PD. I mean, it's not any different. It's just a matter of where you take.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, I just wanted to make it known that this is a potential revenue source rather than a expenditure.
So is this
You
something
don't
that-
need anything from us in the way of motion?
Nothing. Just unless there was negative talk or comment or anything.
Okay.
That was education for me, I guess.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Wonderful.
So you don't make a motion to approve it?
No, sir.
Okay. Discussion of employee review procedure.
This is a handout outside of your packet also that I gave you. This is something that Al and I had discussed moving into employee review season, especially before December 20th, with the potential approval of the employee benefits and wage resolution, which is scheduled for December 20th. I had talked to department heads in regards to holding and conducting employee reviews. We have a very unique situation here in the village. So you could take the time to read through it, but what I'm asking for is also, in good faith, you honor my recommendation here moving forward. It's my belief that essentially the only department that is capable of doing a thorough review at this time would be Carl's department, Public Works. I myself, very new. Chris is someone very new. Jane, while she could do it, I think we need to come up with better tools for review. Chris especially, she told me that you didn't do reviews at Chi-Aspen, correct? So she would actually take the time to look for a better tool to review her police department with. Library, I can't touch, that's at the discretion of the board. Carl has his public works reviews, they've already started. Ryan did a few with the other guys, I read them today. They have a tool, I'll work with Carl to revise, or however he wants to move forward with his procedure. Same with Jane, I would work on her. We just need to find a good reporting tool. And I think what I would suggest moving forward is something that I've used in the past, is a goal-setting period early in the year. Once we have the tool selected, we do a goal-setting period. We do a 6-month review. We'd also do a 9-month review, which I like to call like an accountant's checkup. So basically that tells you, hey, if something didn't go well at 6 months, or there was something that needed to be touched upon, that we can revisit it at 9 months before you have your annual review. It's another easier step in the matter that helps you correct it or give accolades as needed. And then I myself would be open at any time for review or and from the village board. I mean, it's not a complicated matter. I just think in the circumstances how we've turned over as department heads here, especially the last 6 months, we're not ready. It would be essentially us for checking a box of something to do, rather than getting a good, thorough review of an employee. So I'd rather take the time this year, move into 2019, and set up new benchmarks and a new system and a new procedure for how it's going to get done accurately and make it worthwhile. And that would also, because we struggle to find a lot of employee contracts that we are essentially need for our auditing, that would be included also. You would have a job description with each employee, and they would have signed knowing their benefits, wages moving into the annual year, and that would be kept every year into a file dated 2019. So we have everything in one spot. It just seems like we got a mess of things right now.
Whatever you come up with, would that be something that would eventually be melted into our personnel manual that we're...
It could be. I mean, I don't think it would hurt. I just think, especially I would say not so much the job description, but it would be the review terms and how, and process, correct. So.
You don't need anything.
I don't either. I guess I'm open. I don't want to disappoint by not having reviews done, so I'm looking for discussion in the matter.
Does that impact any increases or anything like that?
I don't think so, because the only one that would really affect me, Chris. Chris also wants to gauge, it wouldn't fit the police department. She's looking for doing, per the union contract, they need to do their reviews at their hire date. So that's kind of a special to the police department, where she may have something, I'd have to work with Chris and find out exactly when all the hire dates were. It just makes a better sense for her to have a specialized tool, whereas Carl will have something special to the public works, Jane will have something for administrative, and then I want to do something better for department heads. You know, a lot of what I've done, or I've seen in the past is, hey, give me a number and it's a ranking file. I mean, we need to be more subjective on more words and written rather than a number system. People learn more when you actually have a conversation and write a paragraph about it and just give them a number. Because I don't want to be a subjective leader. I want to be somebody that gives them thorough feedback. So I just think we need more time to develop that program.
I mean, at the end of the day, how you guys manage your employees is to me, really up to you. I mean, the tools and the way that you do it, unless people start, scattering like flies and they're running out of this building because they don't want to be a part of this village anymore, that's up to you. I mean, that's my personal...
We've evolved. I think Ryan helped us his first year doing line crew. It's more of a tool for enforcing positive reinforcement, promoting areas that need improvement, instead of the old check.
There were assessments this year that we filled out for each employee based off of certain categories. But I think I'd like to add a few more, maybe tailored categories. Sure. And that's where I get together with David, maybe more for the public works side.
Absolutely. When your leadership styles and how you manage that, to me, is up to you.
You can't use the same for public works, as police, as administration,
Well,
it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what we have. We have a generalized reporting tool, and I want to be able to make something specific for each department.
David's would be under the same one, because the village president has always done the administrators. It would be a tool for the president to
Sure.
do
Are
the
you
administrators.
looking for just like a verbal, or just a nod of the head here, or? are you-
Public works probably won't change much,
Right.
except for mine.
Right.
Uh,
But Chris and David, you're probably.
Yeah, so they need room to grow a program. I guess.
What I would like to do is a goal-setting session for employees. Most of the public works have theirs already. I would work with Jane for the rest of the administration side in the front office, and then I would challenge, I had mine made personally, and I actually, what I've done in my past is I visually display my goals. That's something I've done personally and in business. So I believe that's something that people should be able to look at, because every time they see it, it's reaffirmed that what's he shooting for. So that's something that I will put in my office in 2019, so anybody who walks in there will see it. And I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but I want it to be on their back burner that they know. Why I put it on the agenda is because I want you guys to be aware that I want to build a new tool. We need this for January. So, and we may not have, other than Public Works, we may not have other employee reviews. That's, I guess, where I'm going with this, if you're okay with that.
I think at some point too, it might be nice just for Ally to see that process.
Absolutely.
Realizing
Yeah.
that it would come to the board, but I think it would be something she would like to look at too.
Ally has been handing me reviews, so I've been putting in each of the personnel files
Right.
when she brings them in to be completed.
So whatever process you determine, I
Correct,
think would be
correct.
good.
Right.
So Carl, yours is not like it was last year? It's something new?
Well, it's similar in appearance, but it's geared differently. It's not meant to save something up for 12 months to jump on somebody about. It's meant to talk about any areas where people need improvement and offer positive, I wouldn't say positive reinforcement, but it's not meant as a
Continual reinforcement.
punishment, like the old days. You know,
So basically, you're just still gonna do it once a year, but you'll be more up on it.
There was really no numbers compared to the years ago when we had the reviews.
We got
That's the
numbers.
difference.
Yeah.
It's more, it's a valuable assessment from
Yeah.
your supervisor.
Numbers are subjective.
With words.
Yeah.
It's always that somebody else's impression, you know, if it's a 1 through 5 and you get a 3, hey, I'm a 60% person. Nobody works at 60%.
Well, you
And very
know,
rarely does somebody work at 80%.
basically, before you were handed a review, and like you said, the numbers, you took it and tossed it aside because you're like, really?
You know, somebody got
It didn't
84,
tell you
somebody got
anything.
82. The 82 person's mad at the 84, you know.
Yeah,
It
I
gains
agree.
nothing, yeah.
I agree.
Essentially, how I describe it to the other department heads is, we don't need busy work. We need subjective feedback to our employees that makes a difference to them. Whether they're doing good or bad, they need to read it and see it and then set a goal to fix it. Or set a goal to further what they've done well. So,
Yep, I like that idea.
Okay.
so I will, actually what I will do is, upon implementing these tools, then I will report to you again. Okay?
Hey, I'm gonna take on. All right? Really good process.
Do you want anything for your report that I should go through?
On that handout, I have a little bit of director's report.
Okay.
At the bottom.
Yep.
Not much. So,
Are you okay?
That's why I had surgery.
yeah.
Oh, how is she?
She's doing good. I just gotta go pick her up.
Everything's
Fine.
good?
She's fine, trust me. She's fine. Yeah.
Good.
If you got any questions, ask Ryan.
Good Thanksgiving, girl.
All right. You want, all right. Can you turn everything off? Or-
Yeah, you bet.
Do we have any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to report of village officials, administrator.
I apologize for the wait. It was a busy 2 weeks here. So another separate handout from the packet. So just an update on the Hortonville Fire Department. I was able to meet with Dave and Jack last week at their meeting. Very positive meeting. Met with good regards, and I think what's happening now is I excused myself because they had a lot of business to attend to. We are planning a meeting the week of the 26th after deer hunting, because he made it very clear to me that firemen are passionate about firefighting and deer hunting, and I should leave them alone until after deer hunting season. So I agree. Essentially, what we are going to do is meet the week of the 26th, and I'm going to have a presentation of what I'd like to see change with their accounting and reporting practices. And he asked me if I'd attend their next fire meeting to kind of put it into perspective with the department, which I will, which is December 5th. So I see no issues moving into 2019 with working on their finances and helping them build tools to properly report. Anything that we would need moving forward for better grant writing. Essentially, instead of, I'm going to take the checkbook out of their hands and I want them to worry about fire-related materials that would help us generate better reporting tools. So, we also met, last week we met with Steve Gage, and Ryan also sat in on the meeting. Ryan, do you want to tell more? What is Steve? What were you guys talking about?
We were talking about the cross-connection inspections. Right now, we use Wisconsin backflow. We're looking at getting other bids for next year, just to see what's out there as far as pricing goes. HydroCorp is one of the companies that kind of introduced us to cross-connection and what is required by the Wisconsin DNR in regards to it. Right now, we do a lot of our own cross-connections ourselves as operators, where we go out to the residential customers and do it. But the high-hazard ones are where the liability standard falls into play, so that's where we have to hire like Dan. There's a certain amount of counts in town. I think there's like 35 or 40 that we'd be looking at. So we're just going to go for pricing to this person along with a couple other companies next year, just to make sure that we're getting our best bang for our buck. And something that we're looking at possibly doing in the future, and I'm going to gather more information in the next year, is there's other municipalities that actually put that cost onto their customers. It might be something we're looking at doing. The high hazard customers need to have their cross-connection inspections done every 2 years. It's always going to be a cost for us on a yearly basis right now, but if this is something that we can do in the future, other municipalities are doing it, so I'll have some information for you guys.
Also with Safe Built, they're more than just, it turns out they're a full service inspection system. So moving into, and we're not trying to delete what Paul has done, Paul does we haven't had that strong conversation with Paul yet moving forward, because going into the new year, he's still a full-time employee with New London, and like Carl reported, there is a multitude of moving parts right now where inspection services is top on my priority. If we have contractors and people wanting to move and build in the village, we need to have that service, and it needs to be the right service and at the right time. So that's something that I'm working on with Paul as well. He just hasn't committed yet to what we're looking for, which is at least, at a minimum, 1 day where he's available during the day to the contractors in town here, or in the village here. So we haven't made that decision yet, and that'll be an update. I'm constantly updating here, going into the new year. We also met, Jane and I met with the members of the Horton team, which is our broker for the insurance, the village health insurance coverage. We do have, because of how it happened in October this year, we do have the opportunity, so October is basically our calendar date. So we have an opt-in, opt-out session that will be November 26th to December 8th. So any employees that have an opportunity to either opt in on our coverage or opt out of it, that is essentially the time period. We are waiting on an email from them that will explain all their options, and they've made themselves available via call-in, so if an employee has an issue, there won't be like a meeting spot, but they can call for more information if needed. So we also met with Gilbert's Grocery. Al was a part of that meeting. So was Bob, Attorney Bob, Carl, and myself. It sounds like the disposition of the sign, as soon as Bob has something prepared, that's on his plate now. They said that they would essentially send a check as soon as they get a notice, and they would be taking complete control of that viewing sign with the option for any new tenants in the retail park to be able to present and display their new business information on the bottom half. So they were going to work on a price, I believe that, I think we actually came up with a price, correct? $500 would be a fee that they'd be able to just present their name on that billboard. Final price of that was $11,998 is what they are owed to the village. Again, like I said, I'm meeting with Bonnie tomorrow from ADRC. I have a nice list that Pat and I worked on and talked about. That is something that's near and dear to my heart. I did a lot of work in the city of Kiel as the Chamber of Commerce president, so there's a good chance we're going to have a great discussion tomorrow. So I'll be able to report more on that. External meetings this period. I did have just this week I had a TID and TIF workshop, which is proving influential already. Every time I sit in a meeting like that, my head starts spinning, and I think of 1,000 ideas that we're going to do for the next years to come. Also today I was at the East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Smart Corridors meeting in Neenah, as well as the FC EDP Economic Development Professionals meetings in Appleton. The Smart Corridors is a little bit in front of our time, but it's not too soon to start thinking about how Hortonville is going to run itself in the next 50 years, because that's essentially what we heard today. Also webinar this week, the village has reconnected with Connect Communities, also near and dear to my heart. I was on the, as part of the chamber affiliation in the city of Kiel as well. I was very involved with Connect Communities in the downtown rehabilitation. So as that program, I need to do these webinars for a year to keep our in good standing with that group. So I will continue to do that. TID 4 update. We have met with Parker Excavating, and we have laid out a few options for them moving forward with their assessment. There is money available in TID 4 where they may have an incentive option that we have laid out. So we're going to see. We gave them a drop dead date by the end of the month to let us know what their intentions are. We are moving forward with them in the hopes that they either would take an incentive from the village with a 2-year commitment to have the 4 or 5 properties fully built out, or B, potentially give the land back to the village at the cost of the assessment, or C, do nothing at all, and they would realize the entire cost of the assessment. So we've given them options that they can work for. Brian had referred back to his father, saying that he wanted to discuss it, so I put that email out and looking for more of an update. TID 3 update, we are also currently working on the 2 lots to the east of Goodwill's Grocery Store. With that being said, the adjacent landowners were also made informed that there is a work in process on those lots, and we are trying to coordinate a meeting with the adjacent property owners to do updates and anything in good taste with the neighbors. We don't want to anger them with development. We want their input, and we'd like to talk to them on how things should develop for TID 3. The Clegg annexation, per Al, I started the discussions with the Clegg family on the 39.42 acres. That's essentially just adjacent to the village here on Highway TT. I did the calculations. We are $507 more expensive per year in taxes on that parcel than Hortonia. So as of right now, they do not wish to annex to the village, and they are going to sit till after the rates come out for this year, and we'll see what. So I told her I'd reconnect with her after the taxing season here. And then the last news, which I will call great news, is the village of Hortonville has invested in an ice rink. So this year you will see a beautiful, what I would call a very easy to assemble ice rink that'll be in Alonzo Park. I'm also working on donation letters to some of our better participants in the village, and we're hoping to get all the costs offset. We did have park money left over. This is a ice skating package that we were able to have in Delafield when I worked in Delafield. Like I said, you assemble boards, you wait for the cold weather, you put a liner in it, and you add water, and you got a 32 by 64 ice skating rink. Alonzo Park seemed to be the best fit. We had shelter, we had light, we had parking, and we had exposure. It's essentially this room, Kelly.
Yeah, so let's just try to
32 wide, so it's essentially this room. This is about the size of a 32 by 64.
That's
So
nice.
it's a nice package.
That's great.
And it's something, my goal, and I'll share this with you, every year I want to bring a couple of amenities to the village. That's something I always believe in, because as taxpayers, they deserve something new and fun every year. And I hope to do it for no charge. So, thank you.
I have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
back to like inspection services in Paul Hamlin. If
Yes.
somebody contacted me with some feedback, should they call you or Carl?
Please.
Okay, I'll have them call you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for David? Okay, now we'll move on to clerk treasurer.
Mine will be very short compared to that.
A lot of moving parts.
I don't have as
Sorry.
much, I know.
Sorry.
Okay, the total turnout for the election was 80.19%. We had a total of 1,291 voters. I did put your campaign papers in your packets, those that are up for election this next spring. It's a little early, but you can start your nomination papers on December 1. There also is your non-candidacy forms in the paperwork. Those are due by December 21, on a Friday, if you're not going to run again. We're still waiting to hear what the state superintendent's office will be doing with that vacancy. There are, it looks like 4 different options. We will wait on that. The current term expires in 2021. So, if Tony Evers.
Any questions for Jane? Hearing none, we'll move on to Director of Public Works.
Essentially,
Packet.
yep, essentially Carl, everything on his slip here is, other than the Tree City application submitted 2019, this would be our 7th year as a Tree City. And then he said that the village is also in the running for a WDNR forestry grant, which would help update the tree inventory, and he has it underlined very likely. So, sounds like he's already penciled this in for that grant. I believe it was a $1,600 grant. So, that's all he had. Aside from the well and, anything else, Ryan, that you can think of? Nothing?
Nope, just gotta get that well going so we can fill in the ice cream.
Yeah. Otherwise,
We're gonna have to drop the well.
That'd be a lot of water from Black High Lake if I gotta fill that over.
Our nearest hydrant, I'm trying to think where our nearest hydrant is, so.
Well, we won't have 20, they want to see consistently 20-degree weather before you put a bladder in, so hopefully not till January.
January,
So
yeah.
about the ice rink, obviously the shelters, like Greenville has theirs inside there.
Inside.
Yeah, this is a little different, never mind.
Well, we kicked it around because we thought about doing it like that, and then you have that constant threat of the wood poles that come out, and you have to pretty much pad every pole that's for support. and-
Nope.
Yeah. So if they're gonna fall on ice or grass or snow. So,
Makes sense.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to Chris with the police department.
Busy month again. I attended the veterans event that they had at the Opera House last week, Saturday. They stopped in and invited David and I. He had anniversary party for his parents, and so my husband and I were invited, so we went. We had dinner with the veterans. It was very cool. My husband really enjoyed it. They talked about, the different things. They had the tables all set, and then there was a table all by itself that was had a tablecloth, and the flower and why the glass was upside down. So they kind of explained everything. So it was neat to be there and meet some old people that I've known for years. So. We had a Facebook article, or we didn't have a Facebook article, we had a newspaper article concerning one of our businesses that came out this week. So I saw the article on Tuesday night. It popped up on my phone. We have a company called Benshot, and Benshot is in the industrial park. Basically what they do is they make glasses, and they're bulletproof glasses, and they actually have like a round in each one of the glasses. I personally think it was an advertisement ploy for them, so because nobody knew what this was, and as soon as you got the article saying that 16 of their employees received handguns for Christmas from the business, first thing I did was I Googled the business. What kind of business is this and everything else. So my first phone call that I received was from ABC News out of California. And wanted to know how I, as a police chief, felt about, you know, a business in our area buying 16 handguns and giving them to their employees. And so we discussed the CCW and the concealed carry and the open carry that the state of Wisconsin has. We also discussed what our process with the state of Wisconsin. So I educated her so that we weren't like, holy crap, you know, a little municipality like Hortonville is having businesses doing this. So the conversation ended very well, and then my second call was to Ben Schott and to try to get some feedback from him. And basically what he did was he had his employees, because they're gun-based, I mean, and that's what they do. They deal with things with guns. And so he had all his employees go to a gun dealership, pick out a gun, bring it back to him, what the price of it was, and what place that they were looking at purchasing one, gave them a $500 gift card, and then they went and they did the background checks and everything else. Well, it's kind of nice because then the lady from the ABC called back because she wanted clarification on a couple different things that we had spoke about. And I explained to her, she explained to me that she did her homework and she contacted the company and spoke with a couple of employees also. So I think it ended very well. It's been on the news and I think it's pretty much a dead item now. So it was handled very well, I think.
We had a few interactions on social media. We didn't reply. Just the two that I saw is that it's interesting why people would do that in Hortonville. Seems like a place I wouldn't want to visit. So it was a Milwaukee-based comment, so no reply.
Still?
And then we had another incident where somebody, one of the Facebook pages had came out with putting something on Facebook about 4 states, 5 children. Basically what they were talking about was bus accidents that are happening. And I was pretty sick that week, on and off throughout the whole week. I ended up with vertigo. And Julie had contacted me and said, hey, do you happen to follow this page? And I'm like, oh, I'm deathly sick. I can hardly keep my eyes open. The house is spinning, you know, but I'll look, you know. And then Julie and I kind of talked back and forth about the whole thing. Because what was happening was through the post that was put out onto the scanner page, it seemed like all the comments were coming from Hortonville about why don't our bus drivers put on their red lights. And then somebody had posted, well, there's a state law states that they can't put on their red lights in the residential area where there's curb and gutter and sidewalk. So it kind of died down a little bit, and then it was going back and forth, making contact with the transportation department and everything else. And I said to Julie, I said, Hortonville may have an ordinance because Shafton had an ordinance. So let me get back to work. When I get back to work, I'll look and see if we had an ordinance. We do have an ordinance. So on Wednesday, I made contact with Harry from the transportation department, explained to him that we had an ordinance, sent him the ordinance, and he immediately sent it out to his bus drivers. So now we have red lights being used in the village.
So yellow lights versus the red lights.
Right.
How I understand it from these parents are yellow lights means that the cars don't have to stop.
Right.
Red lights mean they have to stop.
And we did. We put a big Facebook page out there letting people know. Today, it's reached 1,150 people. So we educated the people that if you have a bus, it's treated as a stop and go light. So if it's flashing yellow, if you can stop, but you can still pass a bus if it's flashing yellow. But if it's red, you have to stop behind it and in front of it 20 feet. So now we have the lights that are turning on in the area where we have autistic children that are trying to cross or trying to get on the buses and stuff like that. The parents are feeling much better about it. So,
Thank you. We'll figure it out on that. That was huge.
I had 2 calls that day. One, I was in the area when they were using the lights, and then one of the parents had called me and said, 6 days you had it accomplished, you know, and I'm like, it was already there. We just had to make everybody aware of it, you know, that it was there, so.
With the 4K students get on the bus and these students with an IEP or an individual education plan, those are the students that are getting on and off the bus in the village.
Great.
And that was scary. So, fixed it.
And when we do get the, because the bus drivers can actually report anybody. So if somebody blows through their arm that they have out, the stop arm that they have out, and if somebody blows past there, they get a license plate, they send it to us within 48 hours, and then we send them a ticket. Because there's a full description of what the person looked like, how old they were, if it was a male or a female, anything like that, so. We take those pretty serious.
Anything else?
No.
Any questions for Chris? Hearing none, we'll move on. Library director's not here, and Pat had given a report for there, so next is the attorney.
Yes, one thing to report, we did receive court approval today with judgment for the Douglas Street property, and so we'll be taking steps to address the situation there. Weather permitting.
We did, on that same topic, Carl and I were out last week looking at the water repair in the industrial park. There was a tree, a noticeable tree, a leaning dead tree at that property. We had it pushed over because it potentially could have been a hazard with, there was a tree going in another tree that would have been into a utility line, so he had Chris from Public Works take care of it and just push it onto a lot. It was ready to fall. So, and this is a full-size tree.
Any other questions or comments for Bob? Hearing none, building permit report is in your packet. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we move on to communication and miscellaneous business. Blackwater Lake District, we will be having a meeting on Wednesday the 28th at 6 p.m. here in this room. That's all I have. Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District. Gold Cross Ambulance Run report is in your packet. Is there any questions or comments on that? Hortonville Civic Association is not here. We've already had Senior Activity Committee. That we should only have that on there once, not twice. Comments and suggestions from citizens present? Then we only have one left.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Go Packers.